Hi, good afternoon. Thank you for coming here, enjoying our facility. I know you were scheduled to see Don Hickey do his talk on John Adams. Unfortunately, he had taken a fall and injured his knees, so we will reschedule him when he's able to come back and stand. So today, my name is Theresa Jackson. I'm an administrative assistant here at the center, but I also enjoy doing some excellent adventures with a good friend of mine, so I thought I'd share with you where we go and what we see, and maybe it'll remind you of some places or spur you to go find some of these places. Thank you. Okay. Next week we have the New Horizons Band, so that you can set your calendar for that one. Okay. So my friend Joanne Fox, you might know her name. She used to work for the Sioux City Journal for many years. She worked for was editor of the Catholic Globe newspaper. She's been around the Sioux City area for quite a long time. She and I take off on excellent adventures. We started this in the summer of 2019. She retired, and then I have Mondays off from this job. And so we traveled on Mondays, and on the Saturdays, when places aren't open on Mondays, which is quite common, I drive, Joanne navigated, and GPS is our best friend. We like to get lost. We started each day with one specific destination in mind, but if we saw something interesting, we stopped because we didn't have a time clock. We'd leave about 9 in the morning, and we'd always be sure to be home by about 4 or so, but it made for great fun. Oh, and we always looked for a cafe. We like the local cafes. We like pie. We found lots of good pie. Now, Joanne took most of the pictures, and unfortunately she couldn't come today. She's doing Father's Day things, priorities, you know. So, all right, well, what started this, honestly, is that we both were really interested in going to Ashfall fossil beds near Royal, Nebraska. Anybody been there? Great, love it. It's so fascinating what they've found, and the whole archaeology. Did you know we had rhinoceros in the area back then? It was a water hole in millennia ago. Water hole, ashfall from a volcano in the west, all landed and trapped all these animals. So they're doing a big archaeological dig. Just fascinating. So here's a picture of one of the students in the summer. They work on it, digging out the bones, the ashfall. Then near there in Royal, Nebraska, we found the Green Gables of Pleasant Valley Restaurant, which we thought was a great fate thing, because some of you will remember Green Gables here. Yep. We had wonderful pie. We did, of course, go to the Bancroft Center, for the Neihart Center in Bancroft, Nebraska, because Joanne and I are both big history fans. We love to read. So John Neihart wrote Black Elk Speaks, which is a marvelous book for those things. Then we did some other things, the Sanford Center Museum and Planetarium. If you've not been there, it's free. They have huge fossils, bones, in their lower level that have been dug up in the area. Like this one, just bigger than I ever thought would be around here. You see, learn things. Pilot Rock Lookout in Cherokee, this enormous glacial boulder that you can see that was, again, a pilot rock for the settlers to know where they were. So, we just thought we'd go see what it is. And went and visited the Grotto of Redemption in West Bend, which I know is very common and well known around this area. So we enjoy that. If you haven't been there in a while, they've done some beautiful remodeling with a fountain in the park, the pond there. So, get that fun. Then in the summer of 2021, we really got busy. We found places to go that we could go safely. Uh, did you know that there is a tri-state iron post marker where the Minnesota, South Dakota, and Iowa meet? It's just north of Larchwood. Actually by the casino there's a sign that you turn and it says to go that way. From there on, you're lost because there's no real marker that finds it because it's not well marked. It's not, it looks very old. It took us a while. But it's also extremely confusing because each street has a different name because it's in a different state. So here's a different one, that's a different one, and that's a different one. And so no wonder we got lost. But we did eventually find it and took some pictures. It was extremely windy that day, but we didn't care. We had fun. And that was the whole point, just to go find someplace. And go to Falls Park, because we're at Sioux Falls. So if you want to go for a ride someday, just head up the interstate, go find the Tri-State Iron Post Historical Marker. So, some of these we also acquired the information of. There is a database for the historical markers in each county. You just go to the Historical Markers Database, Iowa, and you can find them all. So, it's cool. Missouri Valley, the Harrison County Historical Village. It's an amazing complex, lots of interesting old things to look at, lots of buildings set up, you know, the old stores and dentist's office and things like that. It's another wonderful place if you haven't been there. Of course, they have Freedom Rock, and we went and found a great antique store. Because one of the things that I've been involved in is helping some of my friends who are directing shows. I help them find props. So a lot of times we would be on the lookout for props also while we were out and about. Then I had to find Inkpaduta historical marker. My mother grew up in Spirit Lake. I grew up hearing the story of the Spirit Lake, and Inkpaduta was the name, and my mom would say it, and I just got fascinated with that name as a kid. So we went and found there's a historical marker near Smithland, Iowa, where they camped on that site on their way north to do the massacre, to contend where they massacred the family up there. So it's just like, but it's just kind of fun to go find those things that are connected in our area, that connect to something else you know about. I think the name's kind of fun. I should use it as a password one of these days. Nobody will guess it. All right. We've been to Sioux Falls many times. This trip we went and saw the USS South Dakota Battleship Memorial, which if you have, again, if you're looking for a nice, easy trip, it's a nice indoors, but the park itself has got the ship laid out, like at this end, you can tell that's the front of the ship, and at that end you can tell it's the back end of the ship. So you actually can get an idea of how big the battleship is. So it's fascinating, but the museum is wonderful, just so much interesting stuff that you can go and see. SouthDakotaBattleship.org is a website for it that I wouldn't say. I don't have any of the pictures from it. I think we were too busy looking at the stuff to take any pictures on that one. This one was Joanne's choice of sites, and it literally was down the middle of nowhere, gravel road. The St. Donatus, there's a St. Donatus, Iowa, in eastern Iowa, but apparently a group of them made a crossing and ended up in the Hospers, Alton, Granville, Lamars, Oyens, Remsen, and I forget the other name, area. And so she heard about this, the Luxembourg Heritage Society of Northwest Iowa. She probably did a story on it for the Journal at one point. But so we went out and drove around and found this site. And it's literally just that. You pull off, there's the stone marker, there's the map. That's it. But it was an expedition. We had to find it. So and that's part of the fun of our little travels, is just going and finding things. So if you've got anybody of Luxembourg heritage that doesn't know about this, they need to go and get their picture taken. I'm a retired teacher from Western Iowa Tech Community College, so that's why you sometimes will see me in my wit shirts. I haven't gotten rid of. I think our second favorite trip was to Fort Dodge. To see, on the way to Fort Dodge, we stopped at other things like the Silo mural, but the Camp Algona, to learn about the World War II prisoner camp here was amazing. And to learn how many prisoner of war camps there were in our area and in the United States at the time was just amazing. Now, if you've heard of their nativity scene, there was recently a movie done on the Algona Nativity, which is wonderfully well done, accurate, so I've read the whole story. But to see it in person is really wonderful. We went to the museum. We were fortunate enough that they knew a guy and they called him and said, could you open it for this couple to go see it? But most of the time it is open in the holidays. It's on the fairgrounds. It has its own big building. I know my pictures aren't real great, but you can kind of see how much there is with the sheep. I mean, all the animals and stuff out of the stone and things, and these soldiers made it, and tribute to the priest there. So, yeah. The Plymouth County Historical Museum, just up in Lamar's. It's the old high school, and it's multi-level. There is an elevator, but the classrooms they took and they made them into little businesses. Like you go in one and it's the drugstore, and go in one and it's the newspaper office. And they've just done a wonderful job of preserving a lot of interesting history, things you might not have heard about but never seen one. And then a lot of local history, a lot of school history there. I took a picture of the sign to remind myself that it's Tuesday through Sunday, 1 to 5 p.m.
Is there an admission?
Most of these places had no admission.
Okay.
So
Donation.
I'll warn you on that. Only the Ashfall Park does, of course. You have to register for that because it's a state park and all that stuff. So,
They ask for donations, though.
yeah, just like we do. Gee. Now, one day we didn't have a whole lot to do, and it was it was hot, I think, on July 12th. So we just popped down to Ottawa and had lunch at Franny's Cafe. Again, good pie. Gotta have pie. But I gotta put a plug in for the thrift shop there. This is run by the Hospital Auxiliary Group, and it is so clean. It is so organized. It was just so much fun to support them. Act 2 consignment shop. So again, I was looking for props for things I wandered into.
They got a nice courthouse there too.
Yeah. So we're going back there. Now, Yankton, South Dakota, where I have family, and I knew about the old psychiatric hospital, and I had heard it had been turned into a museum. I didn't realize how nice of a place this was. It actually, here's a psych hospital with marble floors. They've redone it into this absolutely wonderful museum. Apparently, it used to be the governor's house back when South Yankton was the capital of the state long ago. So I would say, go visit that if you're looking for someplace very unusual and unique. It's on the grounds of the old state psych hospital, and they're redoing a bunch of stuff, so we plan to go back. Of course, we went to the Gavins Point Dam, which I pictured over there. You've seen one dam, but it's kind of fun. So, but it's a beautiful old pink stone, just like our Pierce Mansion and stuff, to go and see. But it was just amazing to walk in and see that beautiful staircase, because you're expecting it to be, more industrial, like a hospital thing. And of course, eventually we had to make our way to Sac City to see the popcorn ball, which is in that window, in our building right there behind the windows. So it's just kind of fun to see. We just saw another Freedom Rock, of course, and just wandered around. It, just, always have to try to get a selfie. We're neither one very good. Joanne's shorter than I am, and a lot. So it's definitely there for you to see. Lauritsen Gardens is in Omaha, which is a huge place, but again, wonderful. Lots of things. This was inside their botanical park, these pictures in the greenhouse. But there is a little tram ride that costs you about $10 or something, but you can ride through the park, and the guy narrates and tells you all about all the flowers you're seeing. You just have to go at the right time. You just kind of have to plan it as far as what's blooming when. Like when the roses are out, or when they planted a huge field of daffodils, and just entire field. So I have to find that one. Okay. Other August trips, of course, here in town, Trinity Heights, the museum in Vermilion, which is a great little one that keeps changing. The music museum at the time we went hadn't reopened, but it's reopened now. And if you've never visited there, you're missing out on some really unique instruments. I actually grew up when it used to be close, in a little place. I grew up right across the street from it and would see it all the time. So, but there's the building for that. So I'm very happy that it's reopened now. I'm there. There is a little Austin Whittemore historical house in Vermilion. That's kind of a fun little visit if you like looking at old houses, the architecture, and it's all set up as it used to be. And there's a wonderful little cafe called Cafe Brûlée downtown. If anybody's looking for a good little place to have something. So, okay. So, on the road to Orange City, we would often see Sioux Cemetery sign. And we decided one day we just had to go find it. How do you get to it? And it wasn't as easily marked to find the road up to it. But once we got up there, it's a wonderful place, very well kept up. So, that's so nice when somebody takes the effort of keeping up these little cemeteries. And I know you guys have seen it from the hills, from the road, because everybody can see it from the hillside, but you got to go back in and find it. Elgin Township Cemetery of 1880. And we went to Orange City. It wasn't Tulip Festival, it was August, but they had some beautiful flowers in the park, and we wandered through the windmills. They have a walking tour through town that they guided one. They give you a pamphlet, and it's all the architecture explained. So if you're interested in that, I would encourage it. It's not a long walk at all. It's just their little main street, which has some wonderful stores too, by the way. So they've kept their main street really nice. So I don't do Orange City at the Tulip Festival. It's way too crowded for me. Okay. This place up in Sioux Falls, we did not know about. A friend told us about it. It's called Catfish Bay Water Park. It has water skiing, demonstrations, shows. It has water skiing classes that people can sign up for. And they have this lake they've built here. It's more narrow than wide. But you can sit there and they do water skiing and jumping and jet skis and just all kinds of stuff for like 4 hours. I don't remember what that cost, but it was totally worth it. It was so unique. And it was so interesting to realize that there is a place where kids can go and learn to water ski. So then if you take them somewhere and there's water skiing, they can already know how to do it. And then they can become part of the show or all the other water skiing shows that are in the country. And it's right here. And we don't think about that in South Dakota, Iowa. But I would really encourage you, it's something really fun and unique to do sometime. Just a quick little bit here. You've probably heard of these immersive Van Goghs or other artists. This was the one we went to up in Minneapolis. They project the paintings out on the walls and on the floor, and you're basically in the painting. and it's really unique. You can walk around, you can stay as long as you want in there. There's multiple rooms sometimes. They have to find a space big enough. They have to paint the walls just right so they can project on it. So that's where the price comes in. But it's really unique. Do it at least once if you can. Of course, Van Gogh is very unique for it. On the way home from that trip, we stopped at this, what claimed to be the world's largest candy store in Jordan, Minnesota. But Hawkeye Point, of course, we couldn't not stop. The highest point in the state. At least that's what it says. So we're not sure. But it was a lot of fun. You just had to climb up there and look. And all those signposts there have got how many miles it is to different places from there. So it's really kind of fun to find yours. Stand, get your picture taken by it. There's a farm family that has the house, and then this whole area is right next door in their yard, and they keep it up and do a wonderful job. So it's fun to go and promote them, save them, donate to them or something. But there's a big water thing you can climb really high on. We didn't climb quite that high because, again, Joanne has short legs. She doesn't climb much. Don't worry, if she were here, she'd be saying that. Jefferson, Iowa, which is east of us, has the Mahaney Bell Tower. And it's got wonderful bells that ring. You can take the elevator all the way to the top and look out. The town of Jefferson has hired a mural artist, and he has painted the roofs that as you look out the top of that tower, on the roofs of the buildings, there's all these murals, which I think is just the cleverest idea. Because you got people going up there, you might as well promote the rest of the town. Beautiful architecture in the courthouse. I'm going to get it wrong because I never can say the Carolyn Tower. It's the name for the music tower. So another great fun. Now it was September, and one of my favorite things in September is apples. And so I know of Deal's Orchard. And if you're looking for good apples and you're anywhere near Jefferson in September, go find Deal Orchard. My family used to live in the area, so I would always go there, so I can't not turn it down. We have the best little Jonathan apples. I love it. So I get through. Okay. Oh, and of course the Junkyard Cafe. Again, pie. Good pie.
I'd like to mention in Jefferson, there's the 1870s woodworking shop that only uses 1870s tools, and it's just filled with all kinds of antique tools.
All right, well then we're going to add it to the list to go back.
It's only 1 block from the tower.
We did not know of that. See, this is why I do these, is then I get ideas for future trips. So we, of course, had to do Nebraska because we're an equal opportunity visitors in the whole countryside. Bob's Bar and Grill, of course, you know. All right, maybe you remember, front page of the Sioux City Journal had a big story on the oldest bur oak tree in Ponca State Park. And we decided we had to go find it, go see it. It's on the front page of the paper. Oh my God. We stopped at the center. We asked the lady, where in the park is it? She sent us the wrong way, and because there's a bur oak trail, and we wanted the actual tree. We went around in circles for, I swear, half an hour before we actually figured out where it was. So it is cool to go see. It is kind of neat. It's an old gnarled little thing. You go down some steps to get to it. There's my pictures there. So there it is. And those, so yeah. And there's a sign, the old oak tree setback. But yeah, it was quite an adventure. Really fits our story. Jackson, Nebraska, I've stopped, of course, to get the picture of the Lewis and Clark campsite, because hello, it's my job. Got stop at those places. I can share that knowledge on. Then, only in your state, and only in Iowa is another place we get a lot of our ideas from the website. And it had a listing of chocolate shops in Iowa. Had a whole route. Well, Dexter was the closest one to us. All the rest were way east. So it was 2.5 hours away, which was a long trip for us. We usually don't go that far. But we went. We found it, and it's called Drew's Chocolate Shop. And it's seriously a basement. You walk in, and there's just this little space, and there she is with her chocolate. And she told us everything about chocolate. She's an expert. It was good chocolate. So we had a lot of fun with it, taking pictures. But what she did have was a little flyer on the White Pole Road. So we took off on a little unplanned adventure. White Pole Road is an old road that goes winding through several small towns, each of which have fascinating things. The first one was the Bonnie and Clyde, there it is, a Bonnie and Clyde's historical shootout site. It wasn't Bonnie and Clyde, it was part of their gang. Then in Stewart, Iowa, we had lunch at Ruby's Bar and Grill. Elkhorn, Iowa, the Danish windmills. Kimballton, Iowa, Little Mermaid statue gardens. So all along this little route, there's a bank that they robbed and were trying to get away from. I mean, just everything. It just was a fun little random adventure off the interstate, which we like to get off the interstate. Probably my favorite part of it was in Adair, Iowa, where we actually stood at the Jesse James train robbery site. There is just a small section of train tracks left. Whoever, the state, I assume, or the county, there's a selfie station where you can set your phone, set your timer, and then go stand back. That's how we got that picture of Joanne and I. I wish there'd be more of those. Anyway, this was the site of the first train robbery in the West, committed by the notorious Jesse James and his gang, 1873. So, oh no, I did not know. They were so close by. So, again, love finding all this fun history. And we did eventually make it back to the National Music Museum and back to Sioux Falls, but it was October and the weather wasn't great. So we didn't do a whole lot there. Haywarden, we drove through and looked at some of the markers for the original settlement of the site, which is, as you're going into it, there's these big signs that say Sioux County Historical Site. And we're like, well, what's this? So we pulled in, because that's what we do. But then we went and visited the Calliope, which is how they pronounce it, Calliope Historic Village, a group of 19 old buildings. It has a very fascinating history of, it was the courthouse, it was the county seat till Orange City actually literally came in the middle of the night and stole everything. They backed up a truck, they took this safe, which is huge, pulled it out, moved it to Orange City. And then they claimed to be the county seat. They still claimed it. I was recently at a museum in Orange City where the form for marriage had said Calliope. They crossed it out and wrote Orange City. This old weddings document. You just, see, all this stuff you just don't know. Excuse me. Talking to, I know, I get going. Anyway, that was kind of the end of 2021. 2022, how could you not go see the bull? Which I was like, okay, I've seen it, but Joanne hadn't. I'm like, how'd you miss this? But on that trip, we went to find, and maybe you've heard of it, but near Brayton, Iowa, there is literally a tree in the middle of the road. It's in the center, and all the 4 roads have to go around it. There's me standing with the tree. Surprisingly, it is extremely well marked to find it. you turn off the interstate and you go a ways and it says turn this way and tree in the road, arrow, tree in the road till you can find it. It's not been vandalized, it's not been spray painted. So, yeah, so it's really cool. It was a great little adventure on a May day. Then my brother recommended Hamlin's restaurants. Hamlin, Iowa has Daryl's Place. Really, seriously go. Best rhubarb pie, and I make rhubarb pie. So, okay. So lots of fun stuff. Here in Sioux City, the Air Museum brought in an airplane, an old EAA Ford Trimotor Liberty something something, which I'm not very good at those things, but we went for a plane ride. That's us in the old plane. That was a little spendy, but we, you know, how many opportunities do you get to ride an old airplane? An old restored 1928, so. And since that was just in the morning, we decided we still had some time in the afternoon, so we drove down into the Luss Hills and found Honey Creek and Stanley's Snack Shack, which is literally a shipping crate in a field turned into a snack shack focusing on goat milk products. Stanley is the goat. They've got his picture painted on the side of the building. But they've added seating outside because there's no seating inside. It's a shipping crate, which we weren't expecting. But kind of fun to go there. And goat milk products really aren't bad. There are a lot of different cheeses you can try. So if you're interested in trying, that's a good, safe way to get just a little bit. It's not open in the winter, of course, because there's no heating in that thing. All right, well, we went back to the Lamar's Museum. We'll skip that. One of the things that happened here is we had some native things that we were getting, some not native things, but replicas that we weren't using anymore, and we offered them up. And Angel Decorah Museum in Winnebago wanted it, and that's when I first learned about the Angel Decorah Memorial Museum on the campus of the Little Priest Tribal College. The most beautiful native beadwork, real native beadwork, is there. Again, it's free. Winnebago's not far from us. I encourage you to go and see it. If you're interested in seeing some of that beautiful native work, I was quite amazed. It's that anybody doing beaded work, the talent of that with those itty bitty beads. So, okay. Yankton again, we went to Jodine's, and if any of you remember Jodine's, we're all very sad because it's now closed. The owners retired, so yeah, it's a great buffet. Yeah, they just recently closed last month or so. Pocahontas, of course, we have to make that trip at some point. They had a kaleidoscope factory. Guy makes kaleidoscopes there now. The gentleman that started it has passed away, but you can still go there and get a lesson all about how kaleidoscopes are built, and you could buy some really fancy ones if you'd be interested. So that was what drew us there. And we, of course, had to go visit Pocahontas, so because you're there for it. A very unique courthouse. I don't think I got a picture of that. So, we finally made it to Sioux Falls' courthouse museum. Again, sometimes we can't go on Mondays. We have to wait till my schedule lets us go on a Saturday. Really great old museum, the courthouse there, and they have actually redone the courtroom beautifully, so you can go see it. At the time we were there, they were having a wonderful exhibit on the past and present hairstyles over the ages, so that was kind of fun. But if you happen to type in and they tell you that there's a museum of visual arts, don't believe them, because it's not a museum anymore. The sign is still there, it still comes up on the internet, but it's been dismantled and the stuff has gone to the wind, which we're very sad about for that, because we really wanted to find out what that kind of museum was. We walked over to see the Ark of Dreams, which is a sculpture that Sioux Falls has put in. Kind of unique.
Dale Lamphere, who did Heights,
He did?
same artist.
Oh, okay. We didn't find his name anywhere, so. Oh, cool. So, all right. Ever since we started this adventure in 2019, we've been talking about getting to Council Bluffs to see the Squirrel Cage Jail. Anybody know the Squirrel Cage Jail? Couple people, okay. So many people don't. This is an old jail that is literally a squirrel cage. It goes straight up like that. There's 3 levels. Each cell is like a pie wedge. And when it was working, the center would move around and spin to get to the opening so the person could come out, otherwise they were in. And it's just a narrow, unheated, unair conditioned place, so you didn't really want to be the one up high because heat rises on that. But you could actually go upstairs and look at the mechanism that would make it turn. And it's metal and it's old. It's just shocking that they ever did that. And apparently there's 2 others in existence still in the United States for it. I don't know if I have any other pictures of it because I didn't get many of those. But it is so totally worth a visit just to see and to read the stories about how they built it. They've locked it open, of course, now. But just to visually see what the cell was like makes today's jail cells look tremendously wonderful. So, but it's very interesting. It's right next door, well, just across the street, from the Union Pacific Railroad Museum, which is a fascinating place. We're good friends with Larry Obermeyer at the Our City Railroad Museum, so he was telling us about this one to go visit it. So that was great. Sioux Falls, Council Bluffs has got so much. The General Dodge House is a very cool mansion. We just had a very full day of adventures in there. And when you're at the General Dodge House, you hear about the Black Angel at the Ruth Dodge Memorial in the cemetery. Apparently she had a dream about the angel, and after she died, her children put up the statue. So if anybody ever wonders why there's a black angel, because usually they're white and pretty, but that was her dream. So Council Bluffs has really got a lot of things. We've tapped into many more of it. The ARROS, Earth Resources Observation and Science Center in Sioux Falls. You can sign up and get a tour of it. You have to plan it ahead of time. You have to be prepared to have your car wanded as you drive into it. But it is the most interesting site. You can see so many geological things and surveys of the country. They can show you a picture of what the city looked like in 1950 and what it looks like today, and you can visually see the growth of it. They can do that with lakes and all kinds of things. They have a bazillion school tours too. So you have to just go and look for it if you're interested in the science and the earth and resources of that nature. It's complicated, I can't explain it very well, but it's such a wonderful resource that we have here that I didn't know we could go visit the place. I thought it was a government secret lockdown thing, but come to find out, no. You just have to call. And they really are open to that. The lady said, yeah, anybody, tell them to come. So I think they feel like a secret. And I'm like, but go. And of course, lunch in different places in there. We'll go skip that. Had to go see, oh, I forgot I included that stuff. Don't worry about it. We did take a little break from our adventures and go to New York and see some plays and stuff. So Joanne always likes me to put that in there. But we got to see Hugh Jackman and the Music Man. Back to Sioux Falls. On the campus of Augustana University, there's a little Western Studies Museum that we visited. Again, you can just wander in. Really, I mean, seriously, just wander in. People aren't paying attention at all over there much. On the trip home, we found a bunch of historical markers on Highway 50, so that was a lot of fun to research what they were. and find out some more of the local history in the area. For those things, we're gonna worry about that. We wandered down to Atlantic, Iowa in August, and I think we crossed the Nishnabotna River about 8 times, because there's East Nishnabotna and South and West and North and I don't know what all. But it was quite fun. We eventually got to DeSoto. That was the other one that we had put on the list since day one. We just could never get it worked out on a good day to go down there. But if you haven't seen the room full of everything from the steamboat Bertram, they unearthed the cargo, and it's all laid out in this room. It's just amazing. The ship sank straight down, so they were able to unearth it and find so much stuff that had survived. And of course, we had a great time learning about all the wildlife and viewing that. I don't know if you can tell, but sitting on top of those little posts are turtles. So it was lots of fun.
The turtles crawl off.
So, yeah, so it's fun, and it's nice about DeSoto Bend is you can go any time of the year and see something different for that. So, as part of my job here, I signed up my boss and Joanne to do the tourism booth at Clay County Fair. So that's always a good time to go do that and talk to people and hand things out. So can always volunteer. It was September and the weather wasn't too great. We thought, where can we go? Somebody had heard about this no-toll troll stroll, which is very hard to say, in Oakland, Nebraska. And apparently they'd received some rain, so the path was real muddy, but all these wooden painted trolls were fun to find. They were created as a school project years ago. They're not really maintained a whole lot, but it's kind of fun. And if we'd gone in a better weather day, maybe it would have been more fun. Wayne, Nebraska. Of course, we're both retired teachers, so we had to go visit the campus just to see. But we found the store for lunch called Udder Shakes. Because milkshakes. Yeah. They have drunken shakes. They are made with alcohol in the ice cream. So you can get a flight of those. Get the one with Bailey's Irish cream, or one with whiskey, or one with rum. And so, get a designated driver and go on down to Wayne and find Udder Shakes. They were so good. You see, and who would have known if we hadn't just wandered into the city of Wayne and drove around and said, where should we have lunch? And found it. Large, oh God. Okay, so we were looking for this historical site called Blood Run, which the blood part comes from the dirt that was very red in the area. And we went looking and we couldn't find it. The GPS kept taking us to this one place. We drove around and around and around until we finally figured out that it had been renamed and a beautiful welcome center had been added, and it's now the Good Earth State Park. And it's huge. Yeah. Oh, you guys probably know where it is. We spent half an hour driving around the gravel roads.
Was it used to be Kitchamanitou?
No, that's further north. So, yeah, but it was like, and it kept coming up. Well, what was happening was that the GPS was sending us to the end of it over on this road, when the welcome center and everything was clear over here on the nice paved road. So you gotta be open to these things when you go just adventuring. It was just funny. So it's a gorgeous new place that they've built. It's only a few years old. State of South Dakota has done a great job with that. It wasn't open on this Monday that we were there, but we're going back to it. So, Joanne wanted to go to Alberton, Iowa, which is really nothing. It has a town site, but there was a church there, and she likes to look at all the old churches and things. So I don't know if anybody knows Alberton. I always try to find out if anybody knows it for her. Keep telling her she has to come. So one day somebody's going to know. So, just an FYI, if you have dogs and you're traveling with them, Missouri Valley, go behind the McDonald's, drive in there. They're the best dog park I've ever seen. It's just huge. So I put that in for the travelers. We were on our way to Council Bluffs because we wanted to learn something about the Mormon history, and we were visiting the Canesville Tabernacle building, which they're redoing some things of. And eventually we're going to get to the other center site down there for that. A lot of history of that. And a lot of their history is tied with the Missouri River and a lot of what we study and talk about around here. Templeton, Iowa, we finally made it to Templeton Rye. Got to taste a little, of course. It has an excellent museum and a little guide that will tell you the history of Templeton Rye and all of that in there. So it's not just the factory, but you really can learn some great things there. Along the way, we found a beautiful wayside chapel, so lots of neat things, but lots of fun. Again, just enjoyable things. So this year, because we've started the adventures May 1st, we went to Orange City and made an appointment, because it's only run by volunteers, to see the Dutch American Heritage Museum, which we discovered is actually previously the Sioux County Historical Museum. And so you get the Dutch part, the costumes, the traditions, then you learn some about the city's history. But then you walk into the back room, and it is an amazing collection of native artifacts that a local dentist had collected. I've never seen the bigger buffalo robes. There's 3 of them there. Painted, authentic, real buffalo robes, beadworks, weapons that this gentleman had collected. So of course I'm trying to get them here, because it's like, hello, I work where we learn all about that and talk to kids. But yeah, if you're over there and you can get in there, they're hoping to get a full-time staff person hired so they can be open more hours. But they're very willing to make an appointment. Sarah and Sally are part of the Northwestern College, so they were so much fun to learn about. So other things that we've been up to, we've gone to Lordson again. We went to Freeman, South Dakota. The Heritage Hall Museum and Archives looks like it's not very much when you come up to it from the front, but it just keeps going, bigger and bigger as you go back. The Mennonites and Hutterites around that area, I never really knew much about them. I lived in Vermilion for many years. So we got to learn some history of that, and actually discovered that they were from Russia. They were Germans who settled in Russia with Catherine the Great, brought them all in because she was German. But then her son kind of kicked him out, and so I knew it was German, but I didn't know the Russian connection. Again, the newspaper here in town had an article about a store called The Buzz, selling honey down in Emerson, so we went and visited that. It was a really nice place. And we wandered into a thrift store and ran into a colleague from our Western Iowa Tech days. Corliss Hassler is down there. Pam knows her. Out in Westfield, Iowa, in somebody's farm, there's a statue of a man and his tractor, and it's metal. Anybody ever knows of this? You can type in Metal Man's Iowa and you'll find him. So we had to go find him. And in Laverne, Minnesota, there's a Brandenburg Gallery. Jim Brandenburg does beautiful photography, and they've got wonderful little videos that run and tell you all about it. And Laverne's just not far away. Then we went to the Rock County Historical Museum, who has probably the world's, or the country's, largest collection of nutcrackers. I mean, walls of them, and 3 deep. It's just stunning. I didn't get the picture added to this in time, but I feel like the Christmas nutcrackers. They're there. Every type of nutcracker you want to see is there. They got Elvis, they got Shamrocks, they got everything. So, and our list grows. We got to go back to Jefferson and go see that place. We're gonna We've got plans to go on a ride at the Boone Railroad. We're planning a weekend in Mason City as we want to go see all the Frank Lloyd Wright architecture and of course visit the Music Man, one of my all-time favorite musicals. I love them all. Back to Council Bluffs. And Lincoln, Nebraska has a history museum that we want to go to because we haven't been in Nebraska too much for things, but we want to see those. So we always welcome ideas for that. So I thank you for listening. I hope you enjoyed and got some ideas of places. If you want to chat, we can do that if you stay for coffee and refreshments. So, all right. Thank you.